afternoon, everyone. Those of you, a lot of people coming in the room right now, just joining us. Welcome. This is a webinar, TCI and your learning management system with a focus on Google Classroom. So if you use Schoology or Canvas, we actually have webinars that we're going to be doing later this week and then next week to support those learning management systems. But we are going to focus on Google today. My name is Matt Mormon. I'm a national account manager. Welcome. If you want to throw in the chat, where you're from, where do you teach, and what grade, what subjects? I know we had a lot of people from social studies and science both sign up for this webinar today. So go ahead and use the chat to introduce yourself to me, where you're from, what you teach, what grade. We'll be using the chat for and the Q&A will be something that you can use to ask questions and to give information. So Q&A is more like if you have a question for me, you can use the Q&A in there. And then if you want to share something for everybody in the group, maybe just like something you want to share, or like what I'm asking you to do right now is to share where you're from and what you teach, that's what you would use the chat for. And then if you do need closed captioning, you can get that. You got to enable live transcript option, and you can get those subtitles. So I'm going to pull up make sure that I have the Q&A in there. Oh, it says the chat is disabled. Somebody put in the Q&A. Oh, geez, how is chat disabled? All right, let me see real quick if I can figure that out, because let's see, I'm gonna say hello to everyone. Hello. See if you guys got that. I just said hello in the chat. So I don't know, gosh, how that got disabled on there, but you can use the Q&A, and that's the good thing. So I can definitely see your questions and respond to you that way if you have a question. So it's looking like, I don't know how chat got disabled, but we're going to move on for the sake of time. How do you use Google in your classroom? So I'm just curious, and I think what we'll do here is I'm just going to kind of throw a couple things out there. There's a lot of different ways that you can use Google in your classroom. Some teachers like to use Google Classroom to communicate with students. They want to post information, bulletins, notices, and then others want to link directly to platforms like TCI, have kids go in, sign in through Google, be able to see assignments. And then there's another level of folks out there that want to have it sync completely. So like grades talk back and forth between each other. So depending on where you are and how you use Google Classroom, we are going to show you today how you can do all of that and link your assignments, sign in, have your grades synced up, and all of that. So what we'll be covering basically is we're going to start with a case study just to kind of set the tone, to create kind of like, well, why would you need to link up to Google Classroom? And not everybody does. There are some people that like to post assignments in TCI and have their students sign in through TCI first and get assignments that way. And that's totally fine to do that. But then there are teachers out there that really want their students to start in Google Classroom. They're used to that. And they know that their kids are going to be in a routine where they go to Google Classroom and they want to be able to see the TCI information that they need to get to there. And so we'll show you how to do that. And then I'll show you how it works first, so you can kind of get a sense of what you can expect. And then I'm going to take a couple steps back and I will show you how to do it so that you guys can set your own account up and be able to do it that way. And we'll talk about syncing those assignments, the assessments, and then of course the grade syncing. Another question coming in the chat right now is, am I going to record this? Yes, this is being recorded and this will be up. We do have a help center. I'll probably plug that and show you guys how to get in and see the webinar library. But we have a wonderful webinar library where we put all of our on-demand webinars. We have playlists for back to school time right now is a great one to check out on the back to school playlist. We have things for parents, and then we have a lot on, obviously, learning management systems. So this is being recorded, and it will be available to you soon. I would assume soon. All right, so the first thing that I want to mention to you is that we have built right into your TCI program this wonderful help center. So I'm going to make sure that everybody has access to that today. I will show you how you can find this when you log in. But what you see on this screen right now is the things that are in kind of that goldish color. Those are things that you probably are like the most common questions that we get from teachers. And you'll see one right here, learning management system. So there's a whole place right here. So even though we are recording this and you are in a live webinar with me where you can ask me questions, everything I'm going to show you today is already up on here with GIFs and videos and step by step. So if it kind of goes by really quickly and I'm throwing a lot of information at you kind of fast, don't worry. We've got you covered. You're going to find everything you need. And then the blue things, those are more for like your admin type of people that you have in there. So I am going to get you guys to this help center in just a minute. I'll show you how you get there. But first, let's talk about this case study. So let's say, now I'm a former teacher like you guys. I taught 8th grade American history in Michigan. And I used to have to do this lesson on the era of reform. And you can see the essential question there. It says, to what extent did reform movements in the mid 1800s improve the life for Americans? So that's a lesson that I've done with my students a lot of times. Let's just pretend for a minute that you're in a similar situation where you're going to teach this lesson and you realize that there is text that you want your students to be able to have access to, and it's online. So you're going to, you got to push your students somehow to that text so that they can read it. And then there may be some notes, some things from their interactive notebook that you want them to respond to. And in this particular lesson, the students are going to use a graphic organizer that we call a sensory figure to be able to put together and chunk and classify and organize what they're reading. So here there's this reading here on prison reform, and they're going to learn about this woman, Dorothea Dix, and what she did to help reform the treatment of prisoners and mentally ill patients. And then they would complete this sensory figure in their notes. So like that's two things I want to get my students to. I'm going to get them in Google Classroom for that. There's another section, like the students will go to the next section, and they'll read about like equal rights for women, right? And the Seneca Falls Convention. And maybe you want them to do the same type of note, but you want them to do it online. So here on opposite sides of my screen, you're seeing two different things. You're seeing the online text, but on the left-hand side, you're seeing the print ISN or the print notebook. And then on the right-hand side, you're seeing the digital notebook. Both of our science and social studies programs all have a digital notebook. So whether you teach science or social studies, you are going to have digital notes, and then you'll have an option to print out a PDF of a more like paper pencil type of approach to doing the same assignment. So that's what you're seeing on my screen now. This particular lesson, there's some handouts as well. Students have to go, and there's like a fact sheet that they get where they're going to basically break down the Declaration of Sentiments so that they can reword it and then today's language and understand it. So they kind of make sure they know what it is. And then they have to look at information on today and decide how much those grievances from the Declaration of Sentiments from the Seneca Falls Convention, how much that was has been redressed today. So like, we'll look at this one here. He has never permitted her to exercise her inalienable right to elective franchise, and he's compelled her to submit to laws in the formation of which she had no voice. Oh, what the heck does that mean? Well, it means that women couldn't vote, and they didn't have a voice in the laws that were being passed on behalf of them. They weren't represented in Congress, right? So how much has that been redressed today? Students will look at this fact sheet, and they have to answer that. So not only do I have a need to be able to get my students access to the content and either the PDF or digital notes, but I have some handouts that I want them to get into as well. And it's kind of overwhelming. You're looking at handouts and student text and notes, and then there's lesson slides that students can share. And then you have assignments and then grades, and like, how does it all pull together? And then for a lot of you, you may be in a situation where your district has said, hey, everything has to go in Google Classroom. You have to use Google Classroom. So how does it all come together? And that is what I'm going to show you. And we're going to use that case study of that same lesson as we go through and look at this. So don't worry, we have you covered. all of those things will be able to link up to your Google Classroom. Not just the handouts, but links right to the online text. They'll be able to open up the text right there. They'll be able to see the digital notes. And then, of course, you will be able to sync your assignments. And more importantly, to a lot of you, you'll be able to sync your grades. So, so let's explore how this works. So we are going to first look at how to link TCI to your Google Classroom account, and then how to sync grades. Those will be the two kind of things that we look at, and we'll talk about assignments, assessments, and grades, and how to sync that, and then we'll talk about how you set up. It's a ABC. First, you got to connect to Google, then you got to connect to the right class, and then you got to link your students. Very, very easy process that I am about to show you. But before we do that, I want to make sure that you guys have information on that help center. So you should see a QR code there on the screen. If you just take out your cell phones, if you have your cell phone with you, most of us do, and open up your camera and click on that QR code, you should be able to open right to the help center. So again, so that you're not overwhelmed, everything that I'm going to go through and show you today is going to be found in this help center, and we'll open it up together and look at it in just a second. So let's go in and go live here, and I'll come back to that slide in just a minute. And I'm just going to be, keep it to my roots as an 8th grade teacher. So I'm sorry if you teach elementary science or high school social studies. I am all of this works the same whether you do high school social studies or elementary science or whatever. But I'm just sticking to my roots as an 8th grade teacher. So I have the 8th grade TCI program opened up here. And, I was modeling a minute ago. I was kind of going in, I think it was the unit that I was looking at was Americans in the mid 1800s. And this lesson right here, the era of reform, that was the lesson that I was using in my case study. So I'm looking at this and I see that there's this wonderful classroom activity slideshow. Obviously there's reading, so that there's informational text that I want my students to get to. So in this case, they're going to read this introduction. There's going to be a piece of music here that they're going to read or listen to, and they can listen to it here. It's also going to be in the teacher multimedia presentation. And then there's this little preview assignment, and the students will start typing their answers there. So let's just kind of pause on the TCI for a minute. Let's come over here to my Google Classroom for a minute. So this is my Google Classroom for my first period class. I have one for each period that I teach. So if you're an elementary teacher, you probably just need one. But if you do teach secondary science or social studies, you will probably need to, set up more than one Google Classroom. So here, if I go into my classwork, you can see that I have this assignment here that's from TCI, and it says text with notes. And let me real quick, because I'm not signed in as a student, so let me go in and impersonate one of my students so I can actually open this up as a student and show you how this would work. So I'm going to go to my dashboard here real quick, and I'm going to impersonate one of my students, impersonate this student here. And I got to make sure that I'm in the right class, because this student we use this test student for a lot of different classes. So I'm in the right class. Okay. So that student would basically, let's say they start here in Google Classroom. Now, I don't know how you guys have your students signing in. There's a lot of different ways. If you're rostering with Clever, some of your students are signing in directly through Clever. I have a 10th grader at my house this year that's doing government with Government Alive. And he says that he goes to his Google Waffle, and his district has put the TCI sign-in button, single sign-in option button, right there in his Google Waffle. And so that's how he signs in. But they do need to be signed in. Once they're signed in, and you can have them sign in right in Google, that's a way that your district can set that up. There is a help article on that if your district admin team needs help figuring out how to set up SAML. But here they are, they're in my class, they see that they have an assignment, and they can go ahead and click on that link. And what will happen is it will open up in a new window for them so that they can easily toggle back and forth between Google Classroom and TCI. So TCI opens up in a new window, and they can see that they were supposed to, here in this lesson, listen to the song here, the preview. They can listen to it here, they can read the lyrics, and then they're going to have to do some information here. So like you can see that this student already went in here and did some information. The lyrics are very empowering, women would sing. So this student has done some things, and I'm just gonna add a couple things here so that I can return this in again. So I can regrade it. This was something that was graded previously, but I'm just modeling for you. So the student's going to return that in. They're going to submit a redo for that. All right. So now I'm going to go back as a teacher real quick. And I am going to see that I have something that needs review. So that's going to take me to my TCI gradebook now. And it's got updated work. And I can go in to this particular student. I'm gonna actually go back a second here because I have it set up so that I can grade by lesson, but I want to grade by section. So I'm going to change it so I'm grading by section. And I'm going to go into that first section, that introduction there, where the student, I previously given them a 5 out of 5. And now they've done something else. And I'm going to say that that student is going to, I'm going to just give them a 4 here. Give them a 4. And out of that, just to show you, now what should happen is that should update my grade book. So like if I go back to my grade book here, it should say in TCI that that student has a running score of 13 so far. But if I look at each section, that student is getting a 4 here. And then I'm going to go over to my TCI and go to grades here. And you can see that it's sunk that grade for that student. It says right here in Google Classroom, 4 out of 5. So the grade sync. So now I've got your attention probably. You're like, okay, cool, Matt. That's what I wanted to do. Show me how to do it. And that's what I'm going to show you right now. I'm going to show you how you guys can do that. So to do that, I am going to, I think what I'll do real quick is I will, I'm going to back out here. I'm going to sign back in as a teacher here because I was signed in as one of my students. And I'm going to start from scratch. So I'm going to do a few things. I'm going to go into my classes real quick, and I'm just going to undo some of the things that I'm going to show you how to do. So let me disconnect there, and let me go into settings, and I'm going to go into integration. I'm going to disconnect there. Okay, so here are the steps. All right, now I did share with you, and I will share that QR code again as we get to the end. I'm going to share how you will find the Help Center. But the Help Center, if you don't have that QR code link, it's right up here in the top right-hand corner. There's a little question mark that says support. If you click on that, a drop down will come back where you can give us feedback, but you can also get help. And if I click help, that's going to take me to the Help Center here. And this is what I was sharing with you earlier. And then you will see that learning management systems is one of the topics here. So I'll click on that. And then you'll see Google, Canvas, and Schoology. Those are the 3 LMS that we integrate with. So we want to talk about Google Classroom. So I'm going to go right here. And there's a nice little video here. And I did this video too. So you want to hear me talk again, there I am. But if you don't really want to sit through a whole hour-long webinar again, because you're in a live webinar now, you can come down here and you will see the steps. And I am basically going to take you through these 3 steps, but you can see everything crystal clear right here. Step 1, you're going to go to settings, you're going to connect. Step 2, you got to come down here, you got to allow it. Then you're connected. And then down here is where you're going to connect to your classes. And then down here is where you're going to connect your students, and you are good to go. Once you've done that, boom, you're ready to go. So let me show you how I do it. So go back here. So the first thing you'll do when you sign in, so I'm going to go to where you probably start when you sign in. So let's just say here you are, you sign into TCI, you're in, you land on your content page. You are going to want to go to your settings to start. That's the first step, settings. And I'm going to put my annotation on so that you guys can follow me a little bit more. So when you went to settings, right up here in the top left-hand corner, you'll see a lot of things right here that you can play around with and get tweaked to make it just to fit your needs. But you want to go down to this page part right here, integrations. So go to integrations, and you will see the 3 LMS. So Google Classroom. So you're going to click connect to Google. This is step 1. So connect to Google. What should happen, like in my case, you see my son, my 15-year-old, and my wife, they all have Gmail accounts too. They show up because they get on my computer from time to time. So I'm going to make sure that I select the right person, me, okay? And it's just letting me know that this is giving permission for Google and TCI to talk to each other. That's all you're doing, is you're just giving TCI permission to talk to your Gmail account. So I'm going to say allow, to allow for that, and we're good to go there. Now, it says automatically sync your TCI assignments and grades. If you forget what I'm about to tell you, you could always now click on this link and it'll take you to that help article and it'll show you exactly what to do. But I am going to just kind of skip over that and get you right to that part right now. So the second step, if we're following, so basically what we just did is we just did this first step right here where we connected to Google and we allowed access and we now see that we are connected. So now connecting to your Google Classroom, that's the next step that we're going to do. So that you have to go to your classes. So I just have one class set up right now. I have one period only. I have 2 students in my class, okay? And those 2 students have Gmail accounts as well. They're in my Google Classroom. So over here, you'll see once you click into your classes, next to each class that you have, so I'm going to just really quickly add a class here. Whoops, history. And I'll just call it history 2, and I'll give it a second period. Okay, so yours might look a little different. You might have multiple classes, right? Multiple periods, but you want to do this for each class that you have. So first period class, I'm going to go classes, and I'm going to hit this little action button, and you'll get a drop down. And on that drop down, you should now see this area that says connect to Google Classroom. So I'm going to go ahead and click connect to that. And oh my goodness, look at this. This is all of the actual Google Classrooms that I have. So check this out. We'll go to my Google Classroom real quick, and I'm just going to go over here. Look at that. I got a lot of them, right? These are them. So what this step in TCI is doing here is it's just asking me, which one are you connecting to? So I want to connect to US History Period 1. That's the class, that's my Google Classroom that I've created to link up with my first hour class, okay? So I'm just going to do that. I'm going to scroll down a little bit more until I see this purple button here, and I'm going to click connect, okay? Boom. Now I see this little 2. You might not see that right away. You might need to go to the third step where you see the 2 next to it, but that's letting me know that it automatically caught my students. It will do that sometimes if your students already signed in, but if not, you got to go to the step 3. Now what are we talking about step 3? So we just modeled this right here. There's a little GIF here. It's kind of a cool GIF when you're on the Help Center. We'll show you exactly what to do there. And then this next step is managing students. So you see right here in this version, it says 2 students, but there's 0, and mine said 2 and 2. Okay, so mine automatically. So if yours says 0, what you need to do is you need to click actions, and then there'll be another new tab here for you. It says manage students on Google Classroom, and that will allow you to do an auto match. Okay, and the auto match you can see right here just allows you to make sure that your students are linked. It looks like mine was done already because I already have 2, but I'm just going to model show you how to do it anyways. So I'm going to go down here, click actions again. Now there's a second choice here. So there it is, manage students on Google Classroom. I'm going to click that, and you will see this auto match button, and you can click on that and then next, and then yep, you want to auto match, and it will do that. It'll put your students from your Google Classroom and link them to your TCI account. So everything's set up for me. I am rocking and rolling and ready to go. And I can model exactly how I was able to get those links and PDFs and assignments and all of that stuff to sync. But those are the 3 things you have to do. So again, if you forget how to do those 3 things, just know that Help Center has very specific instructions that will show you how to set all of this up, okay? All right, now that we've done it, let's test it. Let's now go into TCI and go to assignments. And I am going to, you can see that I have an assignment already created, but I'm going to create a new assignment here. I'm going to go in. When you create an assignment with TCI, it's kind of like a who, what, and when. So the who is, the what, excuse me, is what lesson or unit am I going to do? So I can assign the unit overview stuff by clicking on the unit, or I can assign lessons. So I'm going to do lesson 5, comparing the English colonies. Why not? And I want to assign, I can assign the reading, lesson game, or the assessments. All of this will link up to Google Classroom now. Let's say I want to do the reading. Now with the reading, you know that there's reading notes that go. So if I assign, let's say the introduction in this one, it's going to be like for the preview of what the students have to do. And then I can make that a separate assignment, or I can link it up with other lessons, or excuse me, sections, and make it one assignment. Or I could obviously assign the whole entire lesson as one big giant assignment. I don't know too many teachers that want to do that, but it is an option. If you are teaching elementary social studies right now, and you're wondering why yours says activity only and you cannot assign separate sections of the activity, that is something that is coming. So we are aware of that. So just want to throw that out there in case there were any questions about that. But here, I'm just going to assign the introduction for right now to this. And I'm just going to say, you know, I could assign to both classes if I want, all classes. We'll just give it a due date of today. And then if I want to give it a name, you know, I can, something optional, I can put that in there, or directions. But I'm just going to do a real quick assign here. Click assign. And notice that my in my assignments now, I have the little Google icon with a green check. That's just kind of assuring me that you're good to go. You should see that assignment on Google Classroom now, but there's still one extra step that you need to do if you want your grades to sync. So I'm going to go back over to Google Classroom, and I'm going to go to classwork here. And now I have this second assignment, but you'll notice that it says draft right here. So I go in here, and now my link to that assignment is ready to go, but I kind of need to publish this if I want it to show up in the grade book, and I know that you do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to click edit, and then it's 50 points. I think I put this worth 5 points in TCI, so I'll make it 5 points here. And I'm just going to click assign. And that just makes it so that that's now live in the grade book. Okay, so I'm good to go. Now I'm going to hop back over to TCI just for a second. So hop back over to TCI here. And let's look at some of the other things that we might want to accompany that assignment. So let's go into the materials for that lesson. And I've got to go to lesson 5, I guess, pairing the colonies. And there is this handout A, creating colonial sales booth, and handout B, researching your colony. So these are 2 handouts that I want my students to have. So I'm just going to open one up and take a look at it real quick. Okay, so this is a handout that I want my students to have access to, that they're going to need for this assignment when they do this. So I am going to go right over here under actions, and again, I'm in materials. I'm going to go to actions, and I'm going to save that to my Google Drive. Now, if I just click save right now, it's only going to put that handout in my personal Google Drive. I actually want to put it in the class drive so the students have access to it. And then I'll show you specifically how you can actually link it to that assignment. So I'm going to click this change button. I don't know if many of you are used to using this, but if you knew that you had that, but you can change, and it'll pull up. Now it's going to pull up all my crazy Google folders here. So, you know, I got a lot, no judgment here, but I'm just going to do a search of classroom so that it searches for classroom. And then these are my classroom folders. So I said that that was US history period 1. So I think that's period 2. Oh, there it is, US history 1 right there. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to hit select and save. And what that's going to do is that's going to put that handout in the shared drive. I'll show you where the shared drive is. Let's go over and look at Google Classroom right here. The class drive, that I just basically put that assignment in there. However, you may want to, I'm going to go back here. I just clicked view assignment. You may want to make it so that they don't have to go searching for it. So again, you can click edit in your assignment, and you can attach things. So right here, I'm going to attach right with that. I'm going to click on drive. And it should be the last thing that there it is, the last thing, there it is. It automatically knew because that was the last thing that I put in. I'm going to click add. And now that handout, once I hit save, is going to be right there for my students. So now if a student comes here, not only are they able to click on the link here to open right up to that assignment and start doing the preview assignment, okay? But now they are also able to then see the handout that they were supposed to be able to get from that lesson as well. So that is how you kind of link the PDFs. That's how you link the assignment. Now let's do a test on the grades again. Let's test that grade thing out. Let's go back here and let me make sure that I'm signed in as a student, because otherwise it's not going to work. And I'm going to sign in as student 2 this time. Test student 2. And we will go in and we will click on that assignment. We're going to read about the English colonies here, and then we're going to do something. So let's examine the map. Okay, answer the questions below. So I'm just going to put a bunch of gibberish in here. Just watch me put a bunch of gibberish in here real quick. It's auto saving, and I'm going to say turned in. Yep, turned in. I'm done. I did it, teacher. Okay, good. All right, now let's go back into Google Classroom, and let's look at the grades. And you'll see that there's that assignment. It was comparing the colonies. It's a 5-point assignment, and nobody's done that yet. Nobody's turned it in. Okay, no problem. We did see a student turn it in. Now you have to do the grading in TCI. So as a teacher, you're going to come back into TCI, and you're going to go to your grade book. The grade book is on the purple sidebar. And you'll notice that when I click on my grade book, it remembered that I was in lesson 5. So it's got me in lesson 5. And I have my test student 2 here, and it looks like something was turned in. Now I have it set so I'm grading by lesson. I want to grade by section. So I'm going to change that up. So I'm grading by section. That's a better experience. I can get a quick link right here that will take me right to that spot, but I can also open up all the sections and see what other sections that I could be assigning to my students if I wanted to assign things. But right here is the introduction. This particular student turned it in. So I'm going to go there. You can see it's timestamped when they turned it in. And there's that gibberish that you saw me write. Okay. So I can give my students a comment. I can add a stamp like, good job, or, incorrect, or there's all kinds of different stamps I can put in there. But let's just pretend that I want to give this student a 3 out of 5 on this. So I'm going to say, okay, he's going to get a 3. Boom. There he goes. I put the 3 in there, automatically saved. Okay. I can go back to the grades in TCI. I should be able to see, there it is. Yep. It's got a 3 so far for the whole chapter so far running. And that specifically was a 3 to that introduction. Many of you, though, need to get your grades into PowerSchool or to Infinite Campus or something like that. And Google Classroom is a great way because it talks to both on each side. So if you can get your grades into Google Classroom, you can usually get your grades very easily into those other student information systems. But I am going to now check Google. I'm going to go back to my Google Classroom, and it just happened right before our eyes. As soon as I clicked on here, it refreshed, and it showed that that particular student got a 3 out of 5, and that is how your grades sync. Denise has a question. Denise, great question. Do your comments to students alert them that they have comments to read or review? Let's take a look. Let's test that. I mean, I don't think it alerts them, but I think that they can see them. So I have given that student a grade. Let's go back and see what the students see. So real quick here, I'm going to go and sign back in. Oh, I could have done it right there. Wherever you see the key, wherever you see that key is where you can impersonate a student and sign in as them. Okay. So you can see that that was a different assignment. I'm going to go into, oh, I went to the wrong student. I got to sign in to student 2. View all assignments. That's what I want to do. So completed. So this student has 1 to do. They didn't do this one yet, but they don't have anything past due yet, and they have 1 completed. So they can see completed, and so they know that they've gotten done for that, and they can then drill back in there, and they would then see the comments that you give them. They would show up right in here. So if I would have put the comment in there, if I would have added a comment or like given a stamp or something, they would see it right by their answer. So it doesn't give them an alert like you asked, but if they are paying attention and keeping track of what they're doing, they can go to their assignments page at any time and see whether they've gotten credit or not, and if the teacher wrote them a note or want them to fix something or something like that. So great question. Great question. Now, let's see. So I answered that one. All right. No other questions in the chat right now or in the Q&A. So the next thing that I guess I just want to make sure that you guys understand is it works the same way with pretty much all assignments. It works the same way with assessments as well. So if I'm in assessments, I'm going to go to my assessments here. Oh, I'm still signed in as a student. Let me go back as a teacher. I can click on assessments. And I don't have any assessments, but I could create a test, right? So I could create a new test, or I like to A lot of people like to start from scratch. I like to use the TCI test that's already made. Click use this test. It makes a copy of it. So I could call this lesson 5, something like that. I like to, because then I don't have to start from scratch. So by doing it this way, I'm pulling in all of the TCI questions. And then what's happening is it opens up an edit mode so that I have the ability to make changes if I want. So it takes a minute. It's probably the longest wait time thing that we have. So it's in edit mode right now. So let's look at question 1. Let's say I don't like this question. I can just delete it, get it out of here, gone. It's a lot faster that way. And then if I want to edit something, you can see that I could fully change and edit anything in here that I want. Okay, boom, save, done. I can reorder things, move things around. And then I have this creation zone too, where I can create. Say I want to get this, I'm done with this, I'm ready to go. I click done. It's going to take me out to the assessment page. And there's that assessment that I created. It will live down here. It'll be dated when I created it. Now, you want to assign that. Okay, so here we go. We're going to assign it. So we're going to assign it. You're going to go to actions, and I'm going to click on here. Oh, it's right here. It's not actions, excuse me. It's right there. Assign. It was right under my nose. So I click assign, and it's already filled out for you on the what. So, for lesson 5, assessments, all classes, again, give it a due date. You can schedule it for later if you want to push it out later. Hit assign. And it's really the same thing. The kids go into Google Classroom, they go into their classwork, and well, you are going to have to go before they see that it's in draft. So if you want to make it so that it syncs to the grades, you will have to publish that. So that is the one thing that you'll have to do, is publish it. That's just the only extra step that makes the grades talk to it. And then they can see their assessment there. So there it is. There's their assessment, and they click on it, and it takes them right to their assessment. One tip that I have for you guys, especially if you're secondary teachers, elementary teachers, you don't have the headache so much because your kids are not quite, haven't figured this out yet, but you want to check your settings to see if you allow open book assessments and if you allow automatically answers. So if you go in here and you see like student access, open book test is on, you might want to check that. You might want to move it to off, because if it otherwise they will be able to go back and use their notes and things like that. And sometimes you want them to do that. That's okay. That's why we have the ability for you to choose whether you want them to have that. Assessment results as well. I have mine on off because it's going to grade the multiple choice for them automatically when they do that test. And then they'll get an immediate item analysis of what they got right and wrong. And then obviously if you teach secondary, social studies or science, you know what will happen at lunchtime, and answers will get thrown around and all of that. So just, be familiar with the settings. All right. So that is, again, I want to go back to this page right here, and I want to show you, well, first of all, so how did we link TCI? So we connected to the Google account. Check. We did that. We connected our class to Google Classroom. We did that. And we connected students with the auto match. That happened. So this step 1 was very, very quick and easy. You will have to do that at the beginning of a new semester or new school year for each class period that you teach. Okay. And then how we sync, we showed you how the assignments and assessments very easily. You just create it in TCI and it shows up in Google, but you will want to make sure you publish it in Google. And then once you publish it in Google, it will link to the gradebook for you there. So very, very easy. And then I want to make sure that you guys get this again. So one more time, you can scan that QR code with your phones. That takes you directly to the Help Center, where you can get tutorials, GIFs, excuse me, and a little webinar. Plus, this one will probably end up, the one that's on there right now is a webinar I did last year. So what will probably end up happening is we'll probably take this webinar and replace that video in there with that eventually at some point, so it's more up to date. But yeah, when you go to your Help Center and you open up, you're going to have all of this stuff right here. And oh, there's a handout here I want to share with you too. When you go to the Help Center, you'll see this handout. This may be helpful for you guys as well. You can print this out, or you can save it, download it, and there's actual links in here that will take you to this. But if you've gotten yourself to this far, you're good to go, because everything you need is right here. So Any other questions for the Q&A? I don't see any open Q&A. I must have done a good job because usually I get a lot more questions than this. So it must make sense to most everyone. So any other questions? I'll give you guys a second here if you want to pull in some other questions. All right, well, if there are no other questions, I want to thank you guys for taking time out of your day to learn some more information about TCI and learn about your learning management system. There is one other quick thing that I want to leave you with, just as a reminder here. When you're in your TCI program, whether it be science or social studies, on the purple sidebar, you will see the support button as well. That's a little different than the help center. If you click support, we do have this professional development, like self-support onboarding. So you can do a couple different things. You can go to the on-demand webinar library where you will see webinars like this that are already recorded that you can watch later, and then you can get certified and take a self-paced course. You can go to the professional development place and do a self-paced course on pretty much everything, using TCI, using learning management systems, teaching with TCI. So if you come down here, this is where our webinar library is right here. But if you scroll down a little bit farther here, you'll see like, how do I navigate TCI? How do I teach with TCI? And then we even have the learning management system ones where you can go in and click on Google Classroom and see the playlist for that. So anyways, so again, I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Oh, there's a couple other questions. So now I got the thank you slide up. Now the shy people start asking their questions. All right. Is there a way to grade the notebook portion? Yeah, that's what I was showing you. That is exactly what I showed you. So I'm sorry if you were confused by that, but that is what I was grading. I was grading the notebook. So that introduction was the notebook. So when you look at the notebook from TCI, maybe it will help if we look at the print version first real quick. So notebook, right? Interactive notebook. So this is the interactive notebook here. So you have the preview, examine the map, and answer these two questions. That's the thing that I just assigned, okay? And that always goes, the preview will always go with the introduction. Now, reading notes, section 1 in the interactive notebook, there's a map here, and then there's things that the students have to do in the map, okay? Section 2, there's gonna be reading those sections and doing a spoke diagram. So let's bounce over here and go to the reading real quick. And you'll see like there's that preview assignment again, right? And then let's go into like section 3 and we should see a spoke diagram at the bottom. So there's a section 3 reading and there is the interactive notebook. So that's what you're assigning. So that's what you're assigning and that's how you grade it. So one more time, because I can do this super fast. Assignments, right? Create new. Lesson 5. Reading. And that's what we're assigning here, is the notebook, basically. Otherwise, what do you just assign in the reading, right? Assigning like, let's do lesson 3 or section 3, excuse me. Today, assign, okay? And so when you go into grade, that is what you're grading. You're grading the notebook. So if I go into grades, okay, I see the sections. Like if I wanted to go in and drill in and see section 3, now the student hasn't done it yet, but I can still click on this little hyperlink. Okay, complete the spoke diagram. That is what you're grading. But that student hasn't done anything yet, so you don't see their spoke diagram there. So it hasn't shown up yet. But that's to answer that question. Oh, so Heather, you got to take the webinar on grading, but I'm happy to show you. But she says it's very cumbersome to get every student in the grade book. Yes, it can be, but that's why you got to mess with these filters. So right now, Heather, I'm grading by student. So I'm just seeing everything that test student B would want. But let's go back to my introduction, which somebody would have done in this, right? Didn't I assign that? But you can grade by question. So you can grade by question, and then you'll see right now I see test student 1 didn't do it. Test student 2 did do it. And so now you can see very quickly everybody all at one time, and you can just go down the list, 5 points, 4 points, 3 points, 5 points, and so on. So playing with your filters will definitely help if you feel that it's cumbersome to go to each individual student. This is a much faster way. So you got all kinds of great filters. Like if you want to see who didn't answer it. Oh, look, everybody did this assignment except for test student 1. he didn't do it. Okay. So you can filter out all this stuff right here in the grades. So yeah, so it doesn't look like there's any other questions that I'm seeing right now, but I will hang on just for a minute in case there are. All right, well, for those of you who have to get to other places, I know it's late on the East Coast, almost 5 o'clock on the East Coast for East Coast people. I want to again thank you guys for using TCI. Don't be a stranger. Go into that support tab. You can sign up for help with live experts. You can see our on-demand webinar library. You can sign up for other live webinars like this. And then, of course, you can go to that help center and see all those tutorials, GIFs, and videos on how to do all this stuff. But thanks for attending my webinar, and I'm going to sign off for the night. Have a great evening, everyone.